Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenmara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight is a rather special night. If you're watching this on live or if you're watching this after, you can still get a benefit from what we'll discuss. Because tonight I'm going to take you on a little journey. A journey to the past. A journey beyond all the hype. We're looking at the roots of this particular season. We're looking for the secrets behind the veil. We will be looking at the heart of magic. We are going to take a journey into the history, a little bit of history, of Samhain. The Sabbat that led to the current holiday of Halloween. This is not a super in-depth journey, but I think it's good that we have some ideas, and we can do a deeper dive as we go along at a later time. But for tonight, we will just do a little intro for you. And then at the end of the discussion aspect, we'll do a little bit of a guided meditation, just kind of giving you an idea of how the holiday can be celebrated. The name of this Sabbat, or sacred holiday, comes from a word meaning the end of summer. It's the time where the veil between the worlds is very thin, to say the least. This Sabbat and Beltane are the two times when it's easy to pass between the worlds, whereas Beltane is focused on the fairy realm and fertility. Samhain is focused on the end of life, the end of the sun, the end of a season. But it's not always dark and gloomy. As with Beltane, societal norms are tossed out the window. The rich can act poor, the poor can act rich, slave becomes master, master to slave. It's a time to become someone else. We celebrate that today by dressing in costumes of goblins and ghouls, but there was a time where dressing up would also disguise you from wandering spirits, since the veil is very thin and otherworldly beings are roaming around. And if you happen to be a sensitive, you'll notice this time of the year, you'll notice lots more peripheral shadow type movements. You'll think you'll see pets when they aren't there. You'll get smells from way in your youth. It's because this time of the year the veil is thin and the spirits that have already passed over want to say hello, and so this is a really big time for that. In the old days, you could cut loose at this time. It was one of the few times when you could just really let go, not worry about things. Modern time, it's kind of frequent, but during the older times when life was a little bit more harrowing, you didn't have a lot of time just to go and do like party and drink. Doing a lot of that back in the day was frowned upon. You had to work. Today it's a lot more common, but excess at this holiday was actually okay, and it was almost encouraged. It was a time to celebrate your harvest, how well the year had went. It was also a time to say goodbye to those who had passed. It was a time to celebrate your ancestors, to give them a final farewell into the next world. Because this was a time when they could come back, in a way. They're not gonna like raise out of the ground and come walking into your party, but their spiritual energy, their shade, if you will, could very well come through and be able to discuss, or at least just be present for a moment. This is the third harvest in the ancient world and ancient calendar. It's commonly known as the meat harvest. The moon is generally called the harvest moon, the butcher moon, or the blood moon. This was a time for butchering, the hunting season. Temperatures had cooled down where you could properly process meat and not have it spoil. This was also the time of gourds, winter squash, a lot of your root crops that you hadn't already harvested would be harvested at this time. The first harvest, which is in August, was the fruit and summer crops. A lot of your berries and tomatoes and things like that. The second harvest, which is the autumn equinox, is the grain, primary root crop, and border winter veggies, because that's when you're taking the stuff that can't freeze, can't frost, and you're doing those harvests there. This one was the last one. And the reason that we use so many gourds and pumpkins now literally harkens back to the ancient days, because that was the crop that was available at the time. Although the jack-o'-lantern, interesting side note here, was actually originally a turnip, because our turnips were way bigger than a lot of the ones we have today. I think they were just allowed to grow properly, because most of the ones you're getting are, a little bit bigger than a 50-cent piece. But the ones they would have there were significantly larger. But that's where a lot of the jack-o'-lantern concept comes from, is some of the old they would carve turnips. Which, when you see some of the old images that they would, like the wood etching stuff, they were more terrifying than a jack-o'-lantern. I'll take the pumpkin any day. Some things that are associated, just because if you're choosing to decorate an altar or decorate your home for this particular Sabbat, it would be things, leaves, obviously, acorns specifically, which I thought was interesting, horns and antlers. It's the harvest, the butchering moon, or the butchering holiday. Black candles, they're not evil, by the way. They just draw negativity to them, to get it out of your house. Key aspect to that. Images of your ancestors, your pictures, mementos, things like that to set around as a way to remind yourself of the more solemn aspect of this particular Sabbat. Colors along the lines of blacks, oranges, browns, and reds, because those were colors usually associated with the underworld, with the people who had passed over. It's also the colors associated with fall just before winter. Just one second. You can also, and this next list are more for historical reference than anything else, and that's what we'll caveat that with. These are not things that you want to use. Your decisions, I guess. Because these are some of the herbs that used to be used for this celebration. Because the veil was thin, people wanted to be able to see better, so hallucinogenic products, plants and herbs, were very commonly used. Hello, Serge. We also, a lot of the historical references talk about some of the flying ointments, the poisonous plants, roots, and rhizomes. Not the best decisions. A lot of people poisoned themselves back in the day. But there were safer things that were also very commonly used during this original Sabbat. And that was apples, pomegranates, pumpkins, oak, ginger, ginseng, any of the mushroom family, wormwood, mullein, almonds, hazelnut, hazel tree, garlic, and yew. If you're around somewhere, these are just fun ones to have decorating. They're not meant for food, but things like mandrake root, because it looks like other worldly things. Hello, Destiny. And then we also had things like hemlock, because of the association with death. These were not meant to be ingested. They were literally used for decoration, so keep that in mind. Samhain was primarily concerned with communing with the ancestors, as far as the heart of the ceremonies that usually were practiced. To say goodbye to those who had passed that year, to greet those who are coming in to guide the newly departed to their next lands. This might be a little bit of a controversial take, especially if you're in a more Christian environment, but this was a very strong belief that has literally lasted beyond the 2,500 years of modern day Christianity. That's not a knock, it's just stating this is a belief they used to have. One of the ways that has been kind of adopted over the years as a way to celebrate the ancestors, and you'll notice there's places that do this on like Veterans Day as well. It harkens to this association where you're setting what would be called a silent table, or setting a seat that remains completely empty at the dinner for this particular Sabbath. It was to offer the ancestors a place to visit, to sit, and to commune with the families or the attendees. It was a place reserved for them. You could offer food on the plates, you could fill the glasses with drink, but if you did do that, this was a very strong part of a lot of these rituals, it was to be offered to nature at that point. The food and drink had been offered to the spirit world. It was no longer fit for human consumption. That was one of the interesting aspects of these types of celebrations. Everyone didn't do them. They were a big part of a lot of the historical record. Again, history is written by the victors, so you can make your decisions from there. Since the veil is very thin right now, the spirit world draws near, or we could become more aware of it. With that, things are revealed during these times, Beltane and Samhain in particular. Secrets that you may have thought you hid, they will be coming into the open. Other people's secrets are going to be revealed. This is not a time for secrecy. It's a time for opening up and being honest. Those secrets are going to be brought into the light of the bonfires, which is a huge aspect of the traditional celebrations. Truth will be uncovered, no matter how hard it's tried to be suppressed. Samhain and Beltane are the times when truth is always revealed. This is a good time to work on clearing blocks, opening the gates for ascending energy, and for dealing with issues that may have arisen over the last year. Bringing that stuff into the light, processing it out, and casting it into the fire, verbally, writing it on paper and ditching it, but letting it go. There's no reason to carry it over. Get rid of it. And that's a real strong emphasis with these types of holidays. Another thing that goes along with Samhain is it is a time of transformation. As the spirits of the ancestors have transformed into guiding spirits in a form, after a fashion, you can seek to transform into a better version of yourself. It is a time to reflect on the transformation that you have made in the previous 12 months. But it's also kind of a spiritual new year where you're planning ahead, you're setting intentions, doing your vision boards, things like that, but you're also reminded to look back. See how far you've come. See what you have what you've accomplished, the monsters that you have slayed, the mountains you have conquered. It's really about being aware of where you're at and where you're headed. To me, it's a lot more spiritual New Year than January 1st, because that's about partying and carrying on. When you work with the energy at Samhain, you're setting this stuff up into a spiritual transaction, so to speak. You're putting it into the spirit realm to say, this is where I'm headed, help me out here. So this year in particular has a very unique aspect of that part, and that plays into this year in particular, 2023, is probably one of the most powerful Samhains that we've had in probably a good 50 years or better. It's also been extremely intense. We are coming off of two very powerful eclipses. One solar about 2 weeks ago, one lunar literally 3 days ago. With the veil thinning for Samhain, the energy has been extremely intense. I know in my personal life, I've had a lot going on, and it has made it difficult. But I noticed that there was a huge shift after that second eclipse, the lunar eclipse, that has kind of lifted some of that tension, but it's still very powerfully there. You can still feel it. With the veil being thin and all of this eclipse energy coming in, if you're very sensitive, to use the modern term psychic, or intuitive, your senses are going to be very enhanced. The energy is extremely high, and it's a good time to work with divination if you are inclined to do that. But it's also a very powerful time to set intentions. As I talked about in one of my videos just recently, with the eclipses, they opened up a doorway with Saturn where you're setting your long-term goals over the next few months, right around till the end of March. You're adding in the energy of Samhain, so you're setting not just physical goals, but you're working with spiritual goals as well. So things to think about as you're going forward over the next couple of days, because the energy of Samhain originally was a 5-day window. It's not just one. So things to work on over the next couple of days if you choose to do that. But little detour here, and then we'll go finish this up and go to our meditation. Where do we get the modern version of Halloween? It really has not much to do with the origins of this particular Sabbath, and I use that term because it's a sacred ceremony, sacred holiday. What I'm about to say is not an attack. It's not being rude to anybody. This is history. You can look it up yourself. But to destroy the pagan holidays, the original Catholic Church tried to do a lot of different things. Samhain in particular, they tried to move the holiday to spring. That didn't work. Beltane was already there, and they were trying to figure out how to get rid of that. Just never succeeded. They then tried to do other things to it. They made it evil, didn't work. Then they added their own holidays after one day of Samhain. They were like, fine, you can have your one day, but we're going to take the next two. And they changed the next two to All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on November 2nd. They hoped, the original Catholic Church, to weaken the power of Samhain and the Druids amongst the people and tie them strictly to their beliefs. What is fascinating to me is that this never worked. The church of the time tried to tie Satan to what the Druids were doing because it was honoring the ancestors, but the Catholic Church honors saints, ancestors. Interesting side note. They have tried to hide a lot of the meaning and the belief behind this particular holiday, but just like with May Day or Beltane, there's times when the veils are thinner. You're not hiding that. There's no way to hide that. And it kept coming back, much to the church's chagrin. Now we have this conglomeration of things where you have Halloween, but you've got harvest festivals, you've got the church saying don't do any of it, church is sponsoring harvest festivals. It's definitely interesting now. A funny little tidbit though, there was a time, many years ago, when the royal courts and the Druids, who were the religious leaders of the time, made Samhain mandatory. If you didn't celebrate this particular Sabbath, you were offending the gods and the ancestors. The funny part is, no matter how much it has been demonized, we still celebrate it today. It won't go away. When people don't want to celebrate Halloween by trick-or-treating or carving pumpkins or, dressing up in little goblins and ghouls and rushing around, they have harvest festivals. But a harvest festival is actually hearkening to the origins of the Sabbath. You're going back to the origins of the holiday. This type of energy, once it's established, will not be denied. It's not evil, never has been. It's been demonized, for sure, but it's not evil. It's a time to celebrate, to remember those who have passed, to be grateful for the harvest. Your last period of planning for the future winter coming up, which is going to be dark and cold. So, just things to think about as we're going forward here. This is a simple exercise if you choose to do this on your own. The veil being extremely thin, you can access the spirit world and other dimensions very easily right now. If you write a petition or a prayer or an intention on paper of orange, red, or brown, you can pick one of the safer herbs to use, or you don't have to use that at all, and write down the intention on the paper and burn it in your seasonal bonfire. It can be a fire pit. You can take a candle and light it over somewhere safe, and just allow that message to be sent up to God, Source, Divine Energy, the ancestors, angels, guides, etc. You can also just say thank you at this time for everything that God, Source, Divine has done for you. Whether you realize it or not, there's always that guiding principle. There's always that aid that has been offered. Using these 8 primary Sabbats is a good time to remind yourself to say thank you. We get wrapped up in our own everyday lives. Most of the time we don't even thank our friends when they do stuff. So why would you thank God, right? This is just a really good reminder to do that at these times of the year. At least try to remember that. And the reason that you would write stuff down is writing words is an extremely powerful way to trigger the subconscious mind into action. Even if you don't believe in a god-goddess principle, that's fine. Just writing it down, you're at least putting the effort into thanking the source of everything for granting you the ability to still be here this year. And sometimes you have to remember that. It's not always fun. Now, I have to find my paper because I didn't get this typed up. We will be doing a simple guided meditation. And since this is a fire holiday, it's one of the bonfire days. If I can get my candle to light here. We won't have a bonfire because I don't have access to all the materials for that. But we will have a nice little candle if it will show up very well here. There we go. Maybe. So imagine that this is our little bonfire as we start to do our little journey. You can have your eyes open or you can close them. And take a nice deep breath in, and as you breathe in through your nose, filling your abdomen with earthy forest green energy, and exhale, releasing all stress and tension of the day. Take another nice deep breath in, breathing in that beautiful fresh smell of fresh fallen snow. Exhale, allow yourself to settle into peace and quiet. Take another nice deep breath in, bringing in the smell of the season, spices, apple, pumpkin, maybe a little sweet mixed in there as well. Exhale, and feel your attention flow to the center of your forehead. There is a great oaken door with iron handles and iron hinges standing in front of you. You step forward and take the handle, feeling the cool iron under your hand. You pull the door open. It swings surprisingly silent, showing you a great open field ahead of you. There's a gravel path that you step foot upon. The air is just a little crisp. The sun has just set. You walk along this path, hearing the gravel crunching under your feet. Ahead of you, you see a great ring of stones. The stone circle of magic and memory. You follow this path from the door around the circle and enter, feeling a brilliant bonfire in its midst. Within the circle of stones, everything is light. Outside, it's still dark. You enter the circle and discover that all of your friends and family who are still alive are there. There's a table full of bounty of the seasons. These tables are off to the right side of where you've entered. There's baskets of apples and pears, stacks of pumpkins and gourds, squash of every variety. To the left, there are two tables facing each other. Very long tables. On one tablecloth, there is a white, or on one table, there's a white tablecloth. On the other, black. Instinctively, you know that the white table is for those who are still alive and walking the planet, and the black is for the ancestors and spirits. The family and friends inside the circle embrace you, and there is an overall celebratory feel to the air. You smell candles, you smell the burning of the fire. Somewhere there's a roast cooking as well. From the west, a gentle breeze blows, bringing the booming sound of a gong. All eyes turn to the west. There is a gateway there that you didn't notice before. This is the gateway between worlds. The air begins to ripple. Glittering waves of energy pull apart between all worlds and all realms. You look up to the sky, seeing the stars starting to move, streaking across the sky towards the outside of the western gate. As one, all voices within the circle raise in a song, a calling forth of all old time. The ancient gods draw close. The angels and guides are here. This is a time of magic, mystery with no fear. Celebration and sorrow abound. Joys of the harvest appear. Sorrow for those who've passed over. Tonight we hold them dear. As the song ends, you notice to either side of you, there are two angels. One is your guardian angel, the other your recording angel. Around you mill your guides and guardians. You notice that all of your family and friends have these guides and guardians and angels with them. The circle feels massive. It grows to fit the new crowd, all of the guides and guardians. From the western gate, you see a procession of people. All of the loved ones that have passed over from the coming year are coming in this night. The ancient gods and guardians are amongst them. The ancient deities stand tall and glow with divine light, but the family glows as well in their shimmering ancestral robes. Your loved ones that have passed over come to you. You cannot touch them, but you can see them and visit with them and for a time you visit and chat. At this time, any messages that they want to discuss, you may discuss. Remembering the messages that have come through, you notice the circle has stopped growing. Thousands and thousands of people are within the circle now, mixing with angels, guides, and deities. One of the most ancient of gods, with a great white beard, claps his mighty hands. "Let us feast and revel in this night of abundance," he booms. All of the living, guides, and angels take seats at the white tables. The gods and those who have passed across the veil sit across from you at the black table. Mead, cider, and other drinks flow as tales of past victories, adventures, and mighty deeds abound. The white table feasts on the bounty of the harvest. The black table feasts on the memories. After a time of laughter and jovial spirit, a goddess dressed in a flowing white robe taps her crystal glass with a knife, emitting a gentle peal across the collected group. Everyone falls silent and looks to her. She speaks in a voice as pure as moonlight. "Friends, we have gathered here this night to celebrate life, but also death. Life and death are part of existence. No one truly ever leaves the other, as our memories keep each and every one of us alive. The time for our gathering is drawing to a close." She continues with a gentle chant. "In peace we have come together, and in peace we now part. Always together, always heart to heart." The tables are slowly emptied as goodbyes are shared amongst all. There are tears, there's sadness, but there's also hope in the coming year. As the ancestors begin to walk back through the western gate, returning to the summer land, to the heavens above, the gods and goddesses guide them back. The angels and guides that are with you are there to comfort and to help you understand and process what has been mentioned and discussed. It is a happy time, but also a sad time. You look up as tears stream down your face, and you see the gods and goddesses streaking back to the heavens as the stars return to their locations. You look back to the western gate and see the veil, the shimmering waves of energy slide quietly back into place. As the gate closes fully, the angels and guides that are with you fade from view. The circle of torches has slowly returned to its starting size. The stones around the torches, without sound, moving back into place. You feel that the time has ended for you to be at this celebration. You take a deep, happy, but solemn breath and turn back towards the path, walking along the crunching trail, feeling the air has chilled significantly while you were at your celebration. You walk ever so quietly back to the great oak door, stepping back into the center of your mind. You feel that door close behind you. Bringing yourself back into the present moment, you take a deep breath in, feeling your awareness come back into your body. Exhale, feeling peace and relaxed. Take another deep breath in, feeling beautiful white, calming light flowing in. Exhaling, feeling back in the present moment, at one with all around you. Take another deep breath in, breathing in that beautiful white light. And on your exhale, you may open your eyes, for you have returned to the land of the living. So with that, we will go ahead and end this video. I hope you guys had a great Halloween. Be safe out there for Samhain, and I will see you in the next video.